Today we have several Americans in action today and tomorrow. Today it's Sergino Dest and Ricardo Pepi as PSV host Napoli. And then tomorrow is when we see all the rest of the Americans. Weston McKennie as Real Madrid host Juventus. Yunus Musa as Atalanta host Slavia Prague. Folarin Balogun as Monaco host Tottenham Hotspur. And Tim Weah as Marseille are on the road against Sporting CP. Well, we know what Mauricio Pochettino is doing this week. He's got several matches queued up on the TV for Poch Watch. So before we dive into the individual players, in a general sense, what is Pochettino looking for from his players this week?
A continuation on the good that was built over the last camp and the last 3 matches for the U.S. national team. It's can you go back to your club, can you build on that form, and can you build on those performances to bring it back in November for the next international window? And again, he's been preaching for months and months and months. Nobody's spot is guaranteed. So even if he did play well, Flo Balogun, well, Ricardo Pepi's coming back too. So you got to play really well with Monaco to make sure that you're back in the team and starting.
Yeah, I'm looking at Ricardo Pepi, and you teed it up perfectly for a player he's going to be looking at because the striker pool, it's still hot. And right now, the 2 players in front of him are Flo Balogun, who we will be playing in the Champions League. Haji Wright plays at the weekend for Coventry. So next man up, next mentality up. And when I look at if I'm Poch and I'm looking at Ricardo Pepi, Pepi's got to be patient because the injuries cost him his spot. And the player that's filled in the void for him is Gus Till, who unfortunately for Pepi bagged a brace at the weekend in the win against Go Ahead Eagles. So Pepi's got to get back to doing Pepi things where it goes back to the goals he was scoring off the bench when Luke de Jong was the main man for this PSV side and his teammate in Sergino Dest. This is a big game for him because both were dealing with some injury concerns coming into the match. But when I look at Sergino Dest, positioning is going to be key because he's going up against his former friend, really good friend and former teammate Noah Lang, who now plays for Napoli. So a lot at stake for both players. But if I was to choose between the two, who this game means more for, it's obviously Ricardo Pepi because Ricardo Pepi has to start making statements in this PSV side to get back in the good graces of Mauricio Pochettino.
I like that. That's our headline for today. Pepi's patience, right? And you know why we say that? Because I feel like every moment where he kick-starts and he starts to build momentum, like he had the back-to-back goals against Jamaica and Panama, right? And then it's injury derails. It's never really ever about his ability or questioning whether or not he's good enough or can he lead a line or does he understand what Pochettino wants from him? Because he shows it in spurts, but it's the word that we've spoken about all day today, consistency. Can he build a number of games and build momentum, not only in his legs to trust himself, both tactically, but also from a fitness perspective? Can I say to myself, I can play 15, 20 games and score consecutively in those periods of time? If he can do that, I really do think he demonstrates that he probably is the leader number 9 still, even with the form that Flo Balogun has just shown in the last window. Listen to me, you're not going to find a bigger Flo fan than myself. Like, I've watched him from the Arsenal trajectories all the way through, from the youth teams, and even when he went to France initially, and then has obviously come back around. But at the same time, I think Ricardo really understands what Pochettino wants, even in those early stages when we were still all confused about what's the best 11, who's going to establish himself as the leader number 9. I think he really kickstarted himself more than anybody else. But I love Pochettino's attitude. I love the fact that there's still that competitive edge. It really resembles what I've known in America now for the, 3 months that I've lived here, that nobody is determined in terms of a starting spot. Nobody is guaranteed anything. You have to earn every yard. And I think that adds a competitive edge going into this Champions League week.
Do you agree between the 2 PSV guys that it's bigger for Pepi than it is for Dest?
Yeah, but now I think in the past we would have said for Dest, like, a lot would have to go wrong for him to not be the first choice. Well, in this new system, while again, he still should be first choice, there are other options. You could play Tim Weah at right wing back. There have been more players that kind of step up, and it's not guaranteed for Dest to be the starter. But that being said, I think he has the easier pathway to retaining that place. He's been more consistent with the national team, and again, he's been injured as well. But Pepi, as you said, JayDee, most of that has to come down to availability. One more quick thing on Pepi is that while his backup scored twice on the weekend, I'm not worried about his playing time or his stature at PSV. Because last year, when he was pushing and scoring off the bench, every time he had a chance, he was scoring goals. It wasn't enough for him to take the starting number 9 spot. Yeah. So I think that he's going to get that same trust, that same belief, that same lease. And no matter what the backup is doing, we believe in you. You're our guy.
Yeah, and if you look at the position of Gustil, he's a lot of things. He's not a striker. He does get you goals from midfield. And a good PSV is a Ricardo Pepi at the helm as your number 9.
I want to talk about Balogun because you already brought him up. I know you're more than excited to talk about him. And all three of you, I think it was you as well, that also agreed that this is the guy that we are watching out for the most for the Americans.
I'm on flow watch this week, just genuinely because of, I think he has everything. And I sometimes I forget that Flo Balogun is now 24 years old. You're no longer talking about a young player trying to establish himself in a European powerhouse. No, you're talking about what has to be a fully fledged first team player that has experienced now a number of different loan spells, but now could definitively say, I need to be leading the line for this team. And he's got a great foundation here. This is a historical club that has weight around Europe, and he can really establish himself, and not just the small spells what we've seen in terms of on loan at other places, as saying, I'm a definitive number 9 here, and you have to respect me when I come into these Champions League competitions, because he has it all. He has both feet. The movement has been incredible, which was highlighted in the last international break. The turnover, both shoulders, the being able to hold up the play. But what he does have that I don't think the other strikers have is he has the ability to play the second striker. He can play in as a false 9 depending on what Poch wants, tactically flexible. So he knows the only thing that I have to demonstrate is my currency, which is goals. He has to show an element of goals. And I'm not talking about in spurts where he's shown. I'm talking about the youth team player that played 19 games and scored 25 goals and really established himself and was knocking on the door of both Eddie Nketiah and all those other leading strikers at Arsenal and saying, I should maybe be given an opportunity here. I want him to turn around and show consistency. And when you come back to North London, and whether you're a red or you're a white, it doesn't matter. Your allegiances is always going to link with you, and he has an opportunity to really showcase what he can do again.
I think the thing that sets him apart right now is he's playing with an edge to him. There's a bit of an appetite for, I'm the big dog. He's shown that with this Monaco side. He's the main man for Monaco right now. He's had to be patient as well with the injuries. Breel Mbolo, not the main man, not part of the squad anymore. So I want to see him take the next level and the next step up, Champions League nights. The best players, whether you play for the U.S. men's national team, Mexico, anywhere around the world, the best players do it on the bright European nights.
Facts.
What about the mentality of Weston McKennie with Juventus? This is a guy he's started to find. You turned to me. You excited to talk McKennie as well? This is a guy who's been finding more consistency in the starting 11. He did come off the bench against Como in Juve's game over the weekend, but this is a guy that has been finding more consistency with Juve this season.
Weston McKennie has a massive opportunity because we spoke about it going into this season, right? It wasn't just a tactical discipline that was required in terms of his positioning, but he was honest in saying I had to lose weight. I had to get myself into a physical shape where I could perform for 40 to 50 games and then go into a massive international tournament. And I've seen it. I can see it in his face, physically that he's lost the weight. He's dedicated himself to it. We've seen it in the last international break. He's shown a different terms of tactical discipline on the pitch. Can you now combine the two? Can you now say I can be consistent in terms of my body and showcase my fitness, but also understand whatever role I'm put into, whether that's Pochettino or that's Igor Tudor, I can demonstrate that I can play the 6, the 8, then whatever you require from me on that day is what I'm going to deliver. And I know you as right. As someone who played the same position as him, it can be difficult sometimes flexing, let's be honest, because you really want to demonstrate that I can score goals and I want to be the main man. But this isn't necessarily what his responsibility is either for club or country.
Yeah, I mean, he's done it before, Tom. And right now, Weston McKennie, sometimes you forget that he's the only player that has more Champions League experiences and appearances in the league phase as Christian Pulisic right now. So Weston McKennie's been there and done that. I mean, when you look at Weston and his versatility, right, where would you like to see him play? Where do you think he can be the best benefit to Juve in the Champions League?
Well, to Juve or to the national team? Because Juve, I was about to say central midfield, but I understand why he's playing wing back, and him being on the field is the most important thing. I think that's probably the best Juventus team if he's playing as a wing back, even though that's not best for Weston McKennie.
Yeah.
And for the U.S.?
Central midfield.